All right, well, where we left off last week, we had our tracks done for the intro and the first two verses of Let It Be. We are going to add in the chorus now. So we're going to do this instrument by instrument, just like we did before. So we're going to start with our piano part, starting at measure 13, which is going to pick up where the chorus begins, which is the vocal is Let It Be. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into the tracking. Here we go. All right, and let's go ahead and add in our left hand now. Okay, start recording. All right, and now add the bass in. Okay, now remember we arpeggiated our guitar, so we're going to continue that pattern here. Let me octave back up for our guitar. All right, let's record. All right, and now we're going to bring in our vocal part. Okay, you got to make sure that your right track selected, of course, before you start recording. Let's see if this octave is right. Nope. Be up there. A little bit tricky to kind of jump around. You might need to take some time and edit all these appropriately. But here we go. All right, well, now that we've got all of our instruments in here, we've got our piano, our bass, our guitar, and our voice. The last thing we're going to put in the chorus is our drums. All right, so we're going to get our drum machine set up here. Got a little simple drum pattern here. Kick, snare, kick, snare. I'm going to take out this last kick here. Very simple pattern, but you know, Ringo Starr didn't do anything too fancy in this song. So we're going to put this in starting at measure 13. All right. And put it all the way to measure 16. All right, so for this last little part here, I gotta fix my loop region. Right at measure 16, we're gonna need to make kind of a half bar, because notice that we end 1 and 2 and 3, and then the song kind of ends at 3. So we want our cymbal crash to be like the end of the song to be there on beat 3, which is going to be right on this little lineup. So I'm going to create a new pattern. Let's go to C here, and I'm going to go kick, snare, kick. Going to keep our hi-hats going, and then crash on beat 3. And one thing that drummers like to do, especially before the last hit of a song, is going to be what we call a drum fill. And those drum fills are often accomplished by different patterns of snare and tom hits that, that kind of like signal that there's something new happening right here, or something ending. And so the two toms are here on the T, Y, and U, the 3 toms. There's 2 rack toms, and then the floor tom here. So I'm going to create a little just random, let's see what this sounds like. That's not too bad. So I'm going to put that in here to kind of end the song this way. Let's start at a bar before. Oh, we got the loop regions messed up here. So it's hard to see. They made this a little bit too hard to see, in my opinion. Or maybe I'm just old. And then it comes to a nice ending there. All right. So now we've got all these tracks here. This is a true multi-track assignment here. We got piano, we got bass, we got guitar, we got our voice or our lead sound, and we got our drums. All right. Now, the next thing that, that I want you guys to do for this last, just to kind of give it a nice finality here, is going to be adding EQ to this. And EQ is, you know, similar to adjusting the bass and treble knobs on your car stereo or home stereo. It's being able to raise the volume levels of certain frequency bands, or low sounds, middle sounds, high sounds. We normally break up our EQ into low, mids, and highs. And sometimes we use like low mids or high mids to further distinguish. But basically the low sounds, the kick drum, the bass, are all going to be adjusted using your low frequency EQ controls. Your mid-range is going to be your most of your vocals, your piano, your guitar, things like that. And then your high frequencies are going to be these things called overtones, or any super high-pitched instruments, you know, that will help to kind of color the high end of the frequency spectrum. So the way to that you're going to do this is you're going to select the track you want to work on. Let's say we want to work on our guitar first, and you're going to go to Effects, which EQ is considered one of the digital effects that we can use to effect the sound. All right, so the first thing I do is I click on Effects, then I click on Add Effect. And I'm going to go to Tone, and then Graphic EQ. All right. Now you see that there are knobs here. If you leave it completely flat, what we call flat EQ, then it's not going to adjust the sound or color the sound at all. Okay. But as we start, you know, as we measure our frequencies in hertz, so our lowest sounds, like super low, like beyond what most of us, or we can hear it, but it's down in the depths. It's where the kick drum and the bass guitar are gonna lay. It's down here like 100 hertz. Okay, As we get to 400 hertz, 800 hertz, we're starting to get into the range of, you know, the guitars and vocals. And then we get to the 3.2 kilohertz, 6.4 kilohertz, we're getting to super high overtones here. And what you're going to want to do, I'm not going to give you any restrictions right here. I want you just to use your ears and I want you to figure out what sounds the best. All right. And so as you adjust these curves here, you'll be able to hear, especially if you solo one instrument. Differences between what happens when you start to raise and lower these levels. All right. And so when you start to do this, you'll start to hear the sound being affected, and that's what effects do. They affect the sound. And so you're going to do this to each of your tracks. All right. So certainly for the bass, you're going to want to consider boosting the low end and maybe bringing down some of the mids. You don't want to just bring up everything, because then, you know, that's not going to hold, that's not going to do, you know, what it's meant to do. All right. And just kind of experiment as you listen to these. What's it doing? And you can turn this effect on and off by this power button right here to see what we call A-B. To A, do it one way, which is our A, and then do it a different way, which is our B, and then see which one you like more. And just use your ears. Again, you got to use headphones for this. And I want you to EQ each track. And just do what makes sense to you. I'm going to give you some, when we talk about EQ more in depth later on, I'm going to give you some parameters and things that will help you kind of hone in your EQing skills. Although this is something that takes years to develop. So it's not something that I expect you to be perfect at right now, but I do want you to get some experience doing it. So with that, go ahead and EQ each one of your tracks. And then you should have the complete intro, verse 1, verse 2, and chorus of your song completely done at this point. Label your project, let it be. Save your work. And add your teacher as a collaborator, and you're good to go. Thank you.